record on this computer. So here, take the microphone. Yeah, you made the comment and pass the other one around back there. See, we have both of them. And welcome aboard, Cece. This is the young lady that's going to call you in the blue. So she was looking forward to meeting you today. Okay, are we recording? We're recording. So, okay. First off, Calvin's not here. He said he would be, but let's go around the room and introduce everybody again because you're new, and make sure everybody knows who they are. You've got the microphone, yeah.
I am Micah Foster. I am a new agent. My coach is Lance, and we are just going through and seeing what works for me and what will benefit my business the most, and just going with everything as it comes and hoping to grow my business.
My name is Michelle Mannion, and I got my real estate license last year, and thought, life changes, you could change your life, so that's what we're doing. And I'm just thrilled to be able to be a part of this group, and I just feel like I'm just so fortunate, and I know that everybody else that I've talked to from here feels the absolute same way.
Oh, shy.
Hi, my name is Kim. I'm a new agent as well. I'm starting from scratch, learning, and hoping to learn and grow and be successful.
Yay. I want to make sure the microphones are on. Yeah, well, that's all right. That part of the recording they can miss out on. Yours is on now.
My name is Sarah Snyder. I am a new agent and looking forward to growing and learning as well.
Who's your coach?
Lynn.
Okay, perfect.
My name is Cecilia Rogers. I have been an agent for 2 years, and I'm retaking this class again because I am going to be a mentor. So I just figure if I'm going to mentor, then I better be taking the same programs as those that I'm trying to teach. So that's why I'm here.
Oh yeah, we're throwing our microphones all over the place. Okay, so Micah, you had where you grab a microphone. You had a comment that your son said because you were watching the video. What was the name of the video?
Oh, I can't remember. The fear of a no, I think it's
Terror of a no. Terror of a no.
Yes. My son was next to me whenever I was watching it, and he was looking at me funny. So I asked him, "Why are you looking at me like that?" And he said, "Well, I thought you sold houses, not asked people to give you kisses."
Well, as funny as that sounds, there's a young lady named Jennifer Allen. So I'm going to quote her. Don't think I'm a sexist or anything, but she believes that selling real estate is exactly like dating. I know you're laughing, but it's exact. So she says, imagine she's an attractive young lady, or she was when she wrote the book, and she was sitting on a bar stool, and a guy walks up to her and asks her to dance. Now, she knows that in that guy's mind, dancing isn't the forefront of what he's asking her for while she's sitting on the stool. But if he walked up and says, hey, do you want to go home with me? She's going to slap him and say no. So there's a ritual of dating that's going on there, whether it's being asking for a kiss or getting to know somebody, deciding if you're compatible and seeing if it works out. Real estate is emotional, very much like that. You don't just walk up to them, in my humble opinion, because there are people who teach it. You don't walk up and say, hey, you want to buy a house? Because that's going to turn somebody off immediately. You have to be a friend to somebody. Decide if they're a good fit for you, if you're a good fit for them. Are they interested in buying a house? Are they not? Are they interested in real estate? So there is some sense to what your son said. Yeah, I'm learning to kiss, son. I'm going to kiss my clients. But you're finding out how to that kind of relationship starts off like that. So kudos to your son for noticing in that, and kudos for your answer. You want to add anything to that?
Nope.
No. Okay.
I'm not touching it.
So let me start the slideshow just so we can use it to be kind of a guide of what we're doing. And yes, open up your. Can you hand Cece another? And that was no innuendo. That was quoting Jennifer Allen. And if you want to look her up, she's in Florida now.
I guess the thing I'll add to that is it really is when you meet people and you start working with them or you're trying to pick up their business, you're going to know right away whether or not you're a good fit with them. And it's not just about them liking you or trusting you, but it's also you trusting them and wanting to work with them. There have been a number of times where I have had opportunities to work with buyers or take listings, and I've walked away from it because what I like to say is, we have our protective classes, race, religion, et cetera, et cetera. Jerk is not a protected class. And so if I feel like I'm working with, a guy or a seller or a buyer is that way, I may not pursue that business as hard as I would normally, if that makes sense.
Good point. Good point. So this is kind of just an overcap of some of the stuff we did last week. And as always, I believe the page number in the bottom should correspond with the page number on your book. We might have to get a little farther before we get there. But we're going to talk today some about lead generation and value. We want to recap from last week. You cannot expect to run this business finding a client, seeing them through the end, and then go find your next client. Every day needs to be a how do I find the next client step. You have to set aside time that says, I'm going to find my next lead, my next home, my next so on, so that I will have a nice steady business. If I find a client today and wait till that's finished, that could be 60 days from now, and then I'll be twiddling my thumbs trying to figure out where my next client's coming from. You have to juggle. Okay.
With that being said, lead generation, this business is not about how good you are in sales. I mean, there is some to do with that. But in this industry, it really is about relationships and how well you get along with people. You're not selling houses, you're selling yourself. And the lead generation is something extremely important right now with, especially with our market the way it is. Some of these lead generation tools that we'll be going over today are great, but they're tough when you have a market that is like it is right now.
Amen. We will get to that, I promise. So, to recap, how many people did all the homework last week? That's what I thought. How many people did any of the homework? Yay! How many people? No, I won't do that one. Did none. I won't embarrass anybody. Is there anything about that you would like to share with the class that you thought, other than you're not kissing people? Is there anything that you'd like to share with the homework that you thought was either good, bad, or really impacted you?
I will say I struggled with the value statement.
Yes, I have no doubt.
And so I Googled all kinds of things because Cece told me to Google. And I read a whole lot of really nice, contrived statements.
Contrived. I like that word.
Yeah. And so I thought if someone who knew me heard me spit this out, they would be like, who wrote that for you? Because it's not you.
Mm-hmm.
And so I struggled to really try to come up with something that sounds like, number one, I would say it,
Mm-hmm.
and that I meant it. And so my poor husband was like, and he finally said, okay, that's good. You get it right there. Don't make it any longer. Just keep it right there.
So you have one. You want to share it?
Okay. I still think it needs to be tweaked, but in essence, my goal is to supersede my clients' expectations throughout the real estate process, whether buying or selling a property, and to elevate their experience above being a financial transaction to the level of a warm welcome home.
You're right. That sounds nothing like you.
I think it does.
You do?
I think that was great.
Okay, good. I know. I was just
My
picking
name
on her.
handle on Zoom is Mother Mannion. That totally sounds like
really does. I think that's great.
Anyone else? Okay.
My as you guys work on your value statements, make it you. That I don't know you that well yet, Michelle. But it doesn't sound. That still sounded a little contrived. Now I know you're reading it, but you've got to be able to flow with it. And sometimes you've got some great words in there, and those big words can sometimes confuse people, despite whether they're being homeowners or not. You know what I mean? I try to keep it as simple as possible. My value statement basically states that I'm here to provide you with as much customer service as I can. It's not about the money for me. What I always say to them is, it's not the number of transactions I do in a year, it's the value of service I provide. It's as simple as that. And I want to do so well for you that you would be comfortable in sending me your referrals, your friends and family to me. And then I usually say about 65 to 70% of my business is from referrals, which is true. Just something simple like that shows them that you care. Again, this is, I've always told Greg this when I first took the Grow program a number of years ago, and it's developed and changed. I always approach this as I'm selling myself, and they've got to buy me in order for them to trust me with their purchase and their sale of their home. Everyone has canned statements. It's a matter of how sincere you can make your value statement. That's really what it comes down to. Case in point, I'll use this as an example. Sunday, I have a listing out in Augusta. Some buyers came through on realtor.com. I scheduled an appointment to show them the home. And make a long story short, the seller, the basement was too small. It was not tall enough for them to put a third bedroom in. They had to have a third bedroom. And I took that opportunity to work with them and gave them my value statement, basically. And as soon as I'm done with this class today, I'm supposed to be calling them to set up an appointment to come out and look at their house and set up their search. And it was simply because I just offered a service, and the client's parent, mother was there, and she just came right out and said, you seem to be the most trustworthy agent we've talked to since we've started looking. And it was just because I was just talking to him.
I watched a movie last night, and there was a killer on the movie, and he'd been caught and everything. And he says, "Wow, I took this acting class so they could teach me how to pretend I had empathy." Now, I don't say that facetiously. I'm not trying to tell you to do that. Genuinely care about people. But I'm going to say part of what your value statement too is what is unique about you.
Mm-hmm.
And what is not unique about all of you is you have a real estate license like 2,300 other people. You've done transactions like 2,300 other people. You want to make some money like 2,300 other people. So there are things that you got to find that are unique in what you bring to the table. Tulio is the only person from South America that lives here that is a real estate agent. Now that's a unique proposition, along with other things. I have a medical background. That's a unique proposition. There aren't a lot of realtors that have a medical background. You worked in the funeral business. Somewhere in there, you ought to be putting in a statement about, I've worked with people during some of the most trying emotional times of their life. And that will help me with this trying emotional time of your life, So bring those kind of independent things that you all have. Cece worked at the American Red Cross. Talk about caring for people and caring for people at a very deep level. That is something that you should put in there, that from my Red Cross experience, I've seen people at their lowest and at their highest helping others. I love to help people, and I can't wait to help you. There's something about bringing all those past experiences in with you. So don't be afraid of them. There are 2,300 other real estate agents that know how to take pictures, can get video tours done, can put it in the MLS, and so on and so forth. Bring what's unique about you.
And what I would encourage you to do, and I want you to write this down in your book.
Uh-oh.
Write this down.
This is serious now.
When you are putting your value statement together, or when you're talking with people in general, you need to tell them or explain to them in your own way that you are a problem solver. Because in reality, and that's all you need to write, it's problem solver. Because in reality, that's what us realtors are. The fun part is listing houses. The fun part is getting out there and looking at houses, showing them homes, taking pictures and all that. The problem solving comes in once you have a home under contract or you're negotiating a contract. That's where you really need to, where you should really stand out and shine, because I can promise you the 2,300 people that he's talking about are telling those prospects that, oh, I'm going to market your home this way, I'm going to do this, then I'm going to do that, I'm going to do this, I'm going to help you find this home, da 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 da. But what are you going to do once it's under contract? And I think a lot of the business I have picked up in the past, especially this past year, is because, and I've had clients come right out and tell me that the reason they went with me is because I was so strong with my negotiating. I told them I was strong with my negotiating skills and solving problems. Because once you get it under contract, from contract to closing, it's nothing but bumps in the road. And I'll say that to clients. And my job is to help you get from point A to point B. And from point A to point B, there are going to be decisions that we have to make collectively. And my job is to advise you on what decisions to make to help you get through it.
So last word on this, because you brought up you were having trouble, and I think all of you need to work on value statements. We all do. And it is very hard for us to do that because we're looking at ourselves, and we don't like to talk big about ourselves. I mean, most of us aren't narcissists who, want to spray out to the world how wonderful we are. We're kind of shy about it. Talk to other people and find out what your strengths are, but find the way to explain your strengths that are different than other real estate agents. The one thing I will say about Lance and his problem solving is the best thing you can do if you're going to say I'm a problem solver is you have to tell people how you solve problems and what their benefit is if you solve the problems. If they don't know what the benefit is to them, they'll never believe that it will be something that's powerful to them. The same thing with you dealing with people in the worst of times. What's the benefit to you? I promise you, you and your husband are going to, rip at each other a little bit. Or selling grandma's house that you raised the kids up in is going to be a tough emotional time. I'll be there to help you through those times because I've helped people through other times. Show them how they're going to benefit.
You're going to think outside of the box. You've got, along those lines, you've got a great company that supports each other. I use that all the time, and I'm telling you guys, it goes a long ways. We are not a cutthroat office. I will tell clients that if I'm out of town, I've got 2 or 3 agents in my office that will cover for me. And we are a collective group. It's like a think tank. If we've got problems or issues, and I tell them there will be issues. You have to prepare them for this, because especially you get into a mechanical inspection, whether it's the buyers or the sellers, there's going to be problems. As he said, you've got to be able to tell them, I'm going to be able to think outside of the box, and I've got plenty of support around me to help. Which leads me to the other thing you were talking about, the value statement, things to add. As you start out with your mentor, Mike has not really done this, but she hasn't needed to. But Ray, not here. Some of the previous mentors, I'll tell the clients, you're getting 2 realtors for the price of 1. You're getting 2 realtors for the price of 1, because not only are you going to have, they're not only going to have your full attention. Don't go out and say, I don't have a lot of business, so you're gonna get my full, don't say that, but tell them you're gonna have my full attention, and I've got another realtor in my office who's helping me, who's training me. Don't be afraid to say that, who's training me. So in reality, you're getting 2 realtors for the price of 1. So Kim, when you start working and you talk with someone, Cece's going to be right there in your back pocket. And so I know that Tanya has done that. And those are just some things that you can use as you have that discussion. I know you're supposed to have a value statement, but I would say that it doesn't necessarily have to be a outright statement. I think it's more of a philosophy, some bullet points that you want to talk about yourself, and then use them as you're having discussions with people.
Like any script, you make it your own. But if we don't ask you to think about these things in advance, you'll you'll come up with something that's very pat and dry, and every other realtor out there can do that. So let's move on. Any
Sorry.
other problems from last week's homework? Comments? Thoughts? Okay. So what we're talking about today is how you guys can get some business now. I will tell you that this program was written in a time when it was a balanced market, and we are far from a balanced market now. Who knows what a balanced market is? Who has any clue what I'm talking about?
I have a guess
Go for it.
that it's not neither wildly a seller's market nor a buyer's market.
Exactly.
We're in the middle.
And so where are we now?
It's definitely so.
We are a seller's market. We can't keep properties on that. We can't find enough to sell. So you have to take everything they're saying here with a little grain of salt. But these are all good, solid techniques to learn, if not now, for the future. So if we look down this list, we see that there's two things. One is called prospecting, one's called marketing. Look at the list real quick, and then we'll see if we can add some things to the list. What do you suppose the difference is between prospecting and marketing? For, okay, that would be marketing? Or is that prospecting?
No, I'd say prospecting.
Okay.
It'd be like possibilities.
Okay, Cece?
You can track prospecting, but you can't really track marketing.
Okay, close. Good.
Marketing looks expensive.
Well,
Well, prospecting can be expensive too.
actually, you're not far off on that either. So you have to decide where your time is better spent at. So there's good. Anybody else? Let me see if I'm as smart as I think I am. Hey, it's about conversion time. Now, because I am a very sensitive, introvert, emotional decision maker, I don't like terms like lead, conversion time, closing, because all those sound very harsh and negative to me. I'm just saying that's me. But they're good terms to learn so that we can have a basis to have a discussion. So if you're like me and you look at that and say conversion, I don't want to convert anybody, please take it that it's part of the discussion. So prospecting sources have pretty much a shorter average conversion time. Marketing takes longer. And look at that bottom paragraph. The reason is simple. Marketing is putting your name and face on a bus stop bench and hoping that as people drive by it, they see it and say, hey, I need a realtor. And that picture right there, that's the one. I don't care about all the other pictures I've seen. So how many other people are putting their name out there that way? Or sending postcards out to everybody in the neighborhood with their picture on it? Are all these good ideas? Yes, they are. You need a balance. But think about it. Prospecting is more of I'm face to face. I'm building a relationship. We're friends on Facebook already, so that if we're friended, we know each other. They're warmer. They're people that you have some connection. Or as Lance did, he was in an open house. That's prospecting. It's not trying to sell the open house. It's prospecting.
I think to add to that, and I wish I'd put a little bit more time in this. To me, prospecting is actually contact. It is talking with people.
We're getting there.
It's actually talking with people. Marketing is more of a overall, hey.
Yep. So when you sold radio advertising, That's broadcasting out to everybody who may or may not need a realtor, who may or may not have ever heard of you before, who may or may not have, and you're trying to plant a seed of, hey, that house sounds like fun to me. I want to move. Okay.
Keep going.
So, lead generation mix is, think of it as a spectrum. You need both. You might see some of these come up here as we're going. You need both now business and future business. So if you look at the slides up there, you'll see that prospecting is going to get you something more now. Marketing is where you're starting to get in front of people, but it's a very slow process and you're waiting for them to call you. Prospecting is more active where you're calling them. And Lance is going to do the famous real estate roller coaster. So what happens is if you do not do a constant mix of how we're going to get a hold of people, you're going to be on this roller coaster of I have a closing's done, what's my next business? I have a closing.
I'm eating ramen noodles here, Scotch and sirloin here, ramen noodles here. Okay. That's why it's so important, as Greg said, to continuously do prospecting, marketing, even when you have a ton of business going on. And I'll be upfront and honest with you guys. Sometimes my prospecting absolutely sucks. And the reason being is I've got so much stuff going on and it drives me crazy. I know I should be reaching out to people and so forth. And then I'll have 4 or 5 deals, boom, boom, boom. They all close about the same time. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh crap, I don't have any more business coming in. And now I've got to wait 30 to 60 days to generate that new business and get another closing. And that's when you're at the bottom of the roller coaster. So prospecting helps keep you like this and not this.
And it's not only, and as we're talking about get business now, we want to teach you now how to prospect so you can start it and then build up to where you can do marketing and more things. We'll talk more about that. So one thing that your mentors, and this is something you should all write down now. How many names do I have in my contact list? How many people know how many names are in their contact list? Cece, do you know how many you have? Nope. You know, and I'm not picking on Cece. God love her, she's wonderful. So please don't take it that way. This is very common in this business. Here's what you're going to find about real estate agents. I'm going to buy a bunch of leads from Zillow, from Realtor.com. I'm going to be on the Roy team so I can they'll pay for leads. And I'm going to give up a bunch of money, or I'm going to have a contact list that I'm building relationships with. Which costs less? Okay. Do you want to spend money all your life and be dependent on Zillow? So one of my favorite stories is Joel. He's with this company. He's one of the top 3 or 4 agents in the company. I never tell anybody who's top. That's nobody's business. And one of the things he does every single morning, he sends out 3 handwritten notes. That's primarily his entire. He sends out a note. I was thinking about you. We sold your house. He doesn't have anybody on a program. He writes a genuine, sincere, handwritten note to 3 people every morning before he leaves the house.
That's straight out of Buffini's playbook.
It works.
Mm-hmm.
And it works because it's genuine, it's real, it's personal, it has value for that person. Every single real estate agent in the world thinks if I get this drip email, I will have more business than I can stand. If I have this postcard that goes out, I'll have more business than I can stand. We're all looking for that magic bullet. There are no magic bullets. You're either going to pay a lot of money or you're going to build relationships. So, have a contact list. Have a contact list. And I don't care if you keep it in Zap, as you've been putting some people in Zap. I don't care if it's an Excel sheet, which is probably what Lance does, knowing Lance.
Top producer.
Okay. Or top producer.
A CRM.
It can be a notebook filled with paper. Brenda is famous for her notebooks. She has notebook after notebook after notebook. I honestly don't know what Joel uses. My guess is it's probably a CRM that Buffini recommended, knowing Joel. He's got a coach. But one of the things that they're talking about here, and I don't want to get real deep in it, but I want you to put some thought into it. If you were going to rate your leads, well, let's say I have 10 people I'm currently working with, 10. Of those 10, one of them will close in 30 days. The second one or twos will close in 31 to 60 days. Number one, we've got a contract for it. Number two, we found the house getting ready to write the offer. Number three, 61 to 90 days. They just started looking at houses. That would be your $400,000, Michelle. Number four would be 91 to 180 days out. And number five is 180 plus. You should have all spectrum in your CRM, not just the 10 you're working on right now. You should have people that you want to close in 30 days because that's your next check. You should have people that you want to close 31 to 60 days. That's a check after that. You should have some people that may not buy a house for 3 years because you want to keep building a relationship with them. It doesn't mean that, and this is back to my original problem. If you call people up and your entire spiel is, do you know anybody who wants to buy or sell real estate today? Those folks that are 3 years out are going to quit taking your phone calls. Yep. You have to have something to build a relationship with them. Okay. I know we're belaboring this a lot, but I want you to think about why we're working on prospecting today, prospecting tomorrow, longer term marketing, people that you're keeping in touch with.
Now, I want to add to that, and I like how this program spells out the days. I'm also going to ask you to break out your list of contacts as A's, B's, and C's. And you can even go to D's if you need to. A's are your cheerleaders. They're the ones that are going to cheer you on. They may be 5, they may be 180 days, they may be 2 or 3 years. These are the people that you just closed on. A's are the ones that are going to, anybody who asks them, who'd you use as a realtor? Or who would you recommend? Automatically, they're going to say your name without hesitation. They are your cheerleaders. Those are the ones that you really want to stay in touch with. And I'm not, like Greg said, you're not going to call them up and say, hey, do you have any new leads for me? Any referrals? Don't do that. It's staying in touch, as we'll go through in today's program. But those are the ones you really want to focus on. Your B's are, you got along with them really well. They may or may not be your cheerleader. They're going to be maybe passive acquaintances. Maybe you only see them once, or talk to them, or see them maybe once or twice a year. And those are your B's. Your C's are probably the ones that could care less. They just use you for your services and they're out. You don't want to spend as much time with them as you do with your A's. And then I personally have F's. And F's are, I don't want to work with these people ever again.
I prefer they don't tell anybody about me because
yes. But does that make sense? So yes, you want to focus on the number of days they're out, but let's face it, your sphere of influence, your contact list, you may have a lot of people on there who just recently purchased or are not in the market right now. But if you are staying in touch with them through the campaigns that we have here for you, you have to ask yourself, are they A's or B's? Do I really want to focus on them? You may be in contact with your A's a lot more than you are with your B's. That's what I do.
And I'm going to give 2 points to this and we'll keep going because, yes, I want you to start working on your list if you don't have one. I will tell you this. It is much easier to start putting a ranking in it as you're building a list than to go back in 3 years and try to figure it out.
Yep.
And they change. I mean, they do. But I'll make a good point to that. Cece just closed a deal a year ago with 2 sisters. She's laughing. And the 2 sisters were selling their brother's land. Tough time. Very tough time.
They weren't even my clients. They were the FISBO.
Uh-huh. I didn't know they were a FISBO. Even better.
Yeah,
And-
I had the buyer.
And so wow, that's fantastic. That's even a better story. So after Cece closed them a year later, we found out, or she found out, there was a second mortgage on one of the land that wasn't cleared through title. And we had to go back and figure out contractually and legally how to get that transferred over to the actual buyer ultimately. And Cece coughed up a little bit of money for the attorney to get it done. And those sisters, while they aren't in town, they aren't in town, are they? They are so grateful. I have no doubt if they ever send anybody to Wichita, Kansas, Cece's going to be the person they called because she took that much time to take care of them. They are an A client for Cece. The last thing she wants to have happen is that they forget her name. So she should send them um, a letter in 6 months and say, "How are things going? Did everything? Did you ever hear back? That I was so glad I could help." Just something to keep her name in front of them. Not, "Do you know anybody who wants to buy or sell real estate today?" You know. All right. So work on your list and keep in mind your list has to be not just who you're working with, but everybody. Proven lead generation sources. Sphere of influence. You notice that's number one? I promise you it is your number one. It will always be your number one unless something drastic happens to this business that I can't see yet in my lifetime. It may change, but it's going to be drastic.
It is going to be your number one right now with our market the way it is.
Oh, gosh, yes.
It is your number one. Because if you think about it, if you go through this, I know I'm probably jumping ahead. Visbos and expireds.
Yep, you're jumping ahead.
Sorry, I'll stop. But your sphere of influence is the most important in a seller's market right now.
So number two is FISBOs and expireds. And we'll talk about each one of these in a minute. I believe prospecting driven open houses should be your number two. Now, I say that not because the others aren't important. I'm saying it from my own personal experience. I was better in an open house than I was with FISBOs and expireds. So other people have been wildly successful with FISBOs and expireds. Cece just gave you an example where she helped a buyer with one. I know Tanya Redmond was very, very good at it. So we're exposing you to all of these. You're going to find the ones that are best suited for you. For me, my number two was the open houses because it was more personal touch. But still, we're going to look at all of them. Farming. Oh, there was a time when prospecting driven farming was just the most absolute. You would own a neighborhood and nobody could take it away from you. And social media, still a very powerful one. In fact, it's probably more powerful now, right up with sphere of influence, or better, it's part of sphere of influence as it moves up in the rankings. So, learn your ABCDs. Now, Lance had one way to put the ABCDs, and that's a good way. This is another way to look at what you're trying to do. You need to acquire new contacts all the time. Your contact, your sphere of influence, is getting more people in your sphere of influence. Build and establish those relationships. If you don't have a relationship with the people in your sphere of influence, they will never come back to you. I don't like close, so I use the term confirm the relationship. So there's that softer side of me coming through again. I don't need to close the relationship to mean they're cemented to me, because that may not last. I need to continually confirm the relationship and then develop it. I need to earn that relationship all the time. Okay. So acquire. I'm not going to make you read all of this, but I would like you to note that most of the time, acquire on your sphere of influence is going to be some sort of very personal touch. Face-to-face, telephone call, social media, but not social media where you have your business page where you put a article on it, but rather you're commenting on their page. So you make a comment. I see you got a new dog. I see your family's growing. How nice it is. Oh, I love that dish you just made and showed, or your family eating, whatever. Make comments on their page that are personal, relevant just to them. Email is tricky because lots of people, I can tell you now that that about 80% of my company emails don't get read. And my email should be the most important ones that you ever hit your email ever, right? No, it's because you guys are all inundated with email. You have time issues. So you have to be careful when you use email. And if you use just a drip campaign, pretty quick, they're just going to start deleting yours and deleting them and deleting it. So be careful about email. Snail mail. I check my mailbox once a month at home. Isn't that terrible? It's a locked box. There's never anything in there that's worth a darn. Everything to me that's important comes to the office. So you have to be careful about mail too. But handwritten notes in general are pretty decent. A machine written note that you're willing to buy somebody's house may be less important than a handwritten note. So be careful about what you send. Excuse me. Build relationships. Communicate, provide value, and demonstrate your expertise. The more people who know you are in real estate and trust you. So Lance said he's a problem solver. Cece demonstrated she was a problem solver. That's trust. That's trust from those people that you do the job well and you care about them. How many people have our home beat program? How many people have put anyone in the home beat program? Cece, yay, thank you. You get with your mentor. And if she doesn't know, then you tell her to come talk to me because I'm going to chew on her a while. So we have a program in Cloud CMA that you can put a client in. Now this is drip email, but it's very personalized. Put a client's name in, you put their address in, and then there's this kind of speech that you can edit and change and do whatever with. And then you decide, I want this email to go to this person once a month, once a quarter, once every 6 months, once a year. And it displays the houses in the neighborhood that have just around their home that have gone on the market or sold recently. And I would even phone them first and say, hey, I got this program I'd like to try out. It's going to go to you. It will tell you houses around you that have sold recently because, everybody wants to know what the house is sold for. Well, this is the official statement, and you'll get it in
Thank
your
you so much,
email.
Dee Dee.
Is once every month too much
I didn't
for
mean
you?
to
Would
be-
you
I
rather
wasn't
go
trying to
once
be
a
a jerk or
quarter?
anything.
What
I was
makes
just-
sense?
I had to get
If
down
they
there.
say, sure, do it, and I like it once a month, great. Okay. Just a thought.
I know.
Uh-huh.
I would have made it if I wasn't in a hurry.
Edmund. Yeah, it probably won't work there. Right.
Thank you.
It only works in Wichita, MLS. we we really just started it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. It was a program that was rolled out in late August, and I started customizing it for a company in September and started rolling it out. So it's real new. Okay. But I'm glad to hear you like it.
Thank you.
Okay. Confirm the relationship. So in my example about the home beat, I said have them on the phone to make sure they're okay with it. The last thing you want to do is set up somebody on some sort of constant program that's going to piss them off. You want to set them up on things that make sense to them. Or if it doesn't make sense, so really, why do you have something like, or you're just not interested? You can ask just don't say, no, okay. Ask more questions about why. They may say, well, I don't look at my email that often. I don't care. I'm not going to sell my house. Okay, no problem. A lot of people want to know what houses around them are selling for just for tax purposes. But if you don't want this, that's no problem. I don't mind at all. Just various little statements to keep it going. Okay. Develop. As you develop this database, let's go back to my home beats for a minute. You can log in and see everybody you set up on. You can see if they're opening the emails. If you see somebody who's opening the emails a lot, it might be time to call them. Say, hey, I see you're opening this a lot. Can you tell me what you like about it? Because it's still something we're playing with to see if people like it or not. And if you tell me, then I can pass it on to the bosses. Now, are you really going to pass it on to me? No. But is it a good conversation starter? If they say they really like something, it feeds you some more information. Oh, you like that? I kind of like that too. Um, what is it that would take it to the next step for you? Well, there is no next step. Oh, well, then why are you opening it at so much? Well, I started showing Martha about how the houses were selling around us. We had no idea our house was worth that much. Really? Well, I can come over and tell you exactly what your house would sell for today, or pretty close, give you an estimate. Okay, well, why don't you come over and do that? Oh, now you've taken that next step. See how you can work the conversation around asking the right questions. So develop your relationships. Joel develops his by writing 3 handwritten notes every morning to somebody different. And it's always something. I asked him once about what he wrote about. And he says, I would drive by a Dairy Queen that I went with John Smith. And I remembered we went there when we were looking for houses. I just wanted him to know that I was thinking about him. It would be that simple. Hey, went by that Dairy Queen. Remember when that was great times. Just thank you very much. That's all he writes. Something very short and quick. Okay. ATM. What time is it, Lance?
10:20.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I'm going to move fast.
Yep.
The one thing I'll say about here is getting listings not only is key in a regular market, it is so key right now. Every one of you should be talking to, making sure that everyone who knows you knows you're in real estate. Now, that doesn't mean that you're going to drive them crazy saying, do you know anybody who wants to buy or sell real estate? Your mentor should be starting to talk to you about it's time to write an introductory letter. Let's put your card in it. Let's get that out to folks so they know to start calling you for people that you already know. And that's why it's important to have a list of names to get a hold of. Okay. Sphere of influence, lead source number 1. Oh boy, yeah, we are going to move fast. This is why this company is better. It doesn't have the backstabbers that other companies do. If you don't search for the silver bullet, if you understand that your sphere is your sphere alone, they're yours because they know you and like you, then it's a lot less, I'm going to steal your client from you. And other companies are very much of, I've got to have this lead source that nobody else can know about because otherwise Micah's going to take my client from me. Work your sphere of influence. CC started to say something? No?
Oh, no.
You're
Most of my business has come through my sphere of influence.
And it will.
90% probably.
Yep. And it should.
in your sphere of influence. You're maybe thinking, well, I don't know that many people. All you got to do is sit down and think about what groups you're involved with, what activities you're involved with. Who do you know? Is it a church group? Is it a club that you may be involved with? For me, I've got a number of different areas that I've pulled business from. It's for those who I officiate basketball, and I have sold, I think, 7 or 8 houses now for other basketball officials. Storm chasing. I've done a couple for Channel 12. I've done a couple in education and so forth. So it's you got to think about everybody that you know and have them on your sphere of influence.
And your sphere should grow all the time. And
Mhm.
that's why we're spending so much time on it. We'll spend a lot less time on other ones. But your sphere grows because I like to use Joel because he went literally. He was a foreman on a home builder site to one of the top agents in the city. I mean, he did no kind of sales at all. He was scared of talking, so he went to Toastmasters to learn how to speak in front of other people. From Toastmasters, he picked up other clients. Then he really likes roses, so he went to the Rose Society. Eventually, became president of the Rose Society, and he picks up clients from the Rose Society. So there's all kinds of things that I don't want to say that you're picking up clients just as I'm joining these only because I'm doing something I love and I get to help other people while I'm doing it. and make some money on top of it. Hey, great, you know. If they're going to pay a realtor anyway, might as well be me. Okay. 69% of the time, 62% of the buyer, according to the National Association of Realtors. Referred by a friend, relative, used previously, an open house or a sign. That means that, remember I told you how many leads Zillow sold last week? Did I say that last week? They sold 118 million leads in the United States in 2016. There are 6 million homes sold in the United States every year. They sold a lead 116 million times, 118. And yet, 69% of the people found their realtor because they know them, knew somebody who knew them, knew them. So there's a lot of leads being sold that ain't going anywhere. Having a sphere of influence, and they keep talking about going these number of contacts, is how do I get in touch with people, and am I talking to them in some fashion? So just building a list doesn't do any good if you don't send them an introductory letter. It doesn't do you any good if you don't contact them from time to time in some fashion. Home beats, a direct email on Facebook or whatever. Understand? So that's why we're starting you to build the list. We got a lot of material to go through. So, guys, I'm going to skip through really fast. I hope you understand. We've been talking well. Relationship builders, calls, email, text messages. How powerful are text message in today's market? They are incredible. Even if it's just, Joe was doing the handwritten letter and just text somebody, hey, thought about you, just wanted you to know. And they'd see that and they'd put a little smile on their face, if nothing else. Social media. Social media is not going on Facebook and posting over and over again and looking up recipes and all those kind of things. It's looking at your people in your contact list and making comments on them. Everybody that you're friends with in Facebook should know you're a realtor. Now, it doesn't mean that your page needs to say realtor this big on it or I'm selling houses today. But if in some fashion you don't remind people that you're a realtor, you're missing the boat. It could be a picture of something you see inside an open house and say, wow, guys, I thought this was really cool in this open house I have. Have any of you had something like this? A plant you saw, even comment on somebody, share a picture. I remember you having something like this in your house. Did you paint it this color or did you go with that color? And start a conversation around it. Okay, I'm going to skip the scripts because you can read those on your own. These are some BHG things that I do want to talk about briefly. Some of you are using Zap already. Good. If you don't have a CRM, use Zap. It's perfectly good. If you do have a CRM or a different method, great. Just have one. Birthday cards, of course, everybody does those. I like to do off things like this is National Kissing Week. This is National Coffee Week. This is National Nurses Appreciation Day, whatever it is. Find those off ones because every insurance agent out there sends me a card on my birthday and I don't like it.
Can I make a suggestion? I love the fact that Facebook reminds you of people's birthdays.
Uh-huh.
But what I've noticed is that when you look at all the comments, 95% of them just have happy birthday.
Uh-huh.
And very few people add that person's name
Uh-huh.
to that. And I think just like people like to hear their name, that just little tiny extra 1 second that you add to that is better than just leaving it the regular old happy birthday.
I got really 5 years ago I loved that little app. I have hated it for the last because every year on my birthday I get this long list of people I haven't talked to forever. Or I get lost in somebody else's long list of, and they said, "Thank you everybody for telling me." I'd rather go into them a week after their birthday, put it in my calendar, and say, "I saw that long list last week, and I saved mine a week just so you'd." You'd actually read it or something goofy or silly, whatever your personality is. But don't do it with the list of everybody else's because it'll get buried. Do it when it's important to you. But one of the things down there that I think is very important that we don't talk near enough about is the magazine loyalty labels. And so the rest of them are in your book. Oh, they even have car wrap on there. So yep, they do. These labels. So you guys know that you can get a Better Homes and Gardens magazine sent to your client's house with the label on the right, because I redesigned all ours with the bigger pictures for you guys.
Oh, I thought we had to pay extra for that.
No, you just have to tell Greg, get mine out there, and I will make sure it's updated, because I have a good working relationship, and as long as we do it, and that we also set up so that in Better KS, you can just push a button and order it. You don't have to go through the greenhouse. If Dixie doesn't know, get with me later and show you.
Because I've already ordered a bunch. So, well, I say a bunch, but like for the handful of past clients I've had, and then I've ordered extras. For
Give me the names of the people you've ordered, and I'll see if they'll update it with the new one.
Okay, cool.
But the thing is, I didn't like the little tiny picture on the left, so I did the bigger picture. And for $13.25, 12 of these will go to your client's house, one a month for a year, or doctor's office, or beauty salons, or wherever you want them. Guys, these realtors beg for programs that are only $13 a year to get in front of their clients.
And I think you can also pick the magazine too, right?
The Better Homes and Gardens magazine is the one that goes out 12 times a year. There are other magazines like fitness and parenting, and some that are only 6 months a year because they're only published 6 months a year. But there are other magazines you can pick if you don't want the Better Homes and Gardens. So get with your mentor. If they don't know about it, we'll do a little class for the mentors so they will learn better. Okay. FSBOs. I'm going to hit this real briefly. The briefness is, in this time in market, you're going to waste your time on FSBO, so I'm not going to make you go knock on any doors this class session. You're welcome. They're moving so fast. Now, having said that, let's say your goal is not to, and if you approach FSBO with the goal of, I want to list your house, you're probably going to lose. If your goal is to find your client a house and there aren't any on the market, and you see something in the neighborhood that says for sale by owner, call them. I have a buyer that's looking for a house an awful lot like yours. Could I preview it to see if it will fit their needs? That will get you in the door, that will get your name there. Honestly, have a buyer. If you don't have a buyer, they'll figure out you're lying. And just say, I want to preview it real quick. If it fits their needs, then we'll come talk to you. Okay, that's the reason to call it for sale by owner.
I'm going to throw in an additional script. What he just said is, yeah, you should have a buyer. However, when I used to work FSBOs all the time, what I would tell for sale by owners is that, and it really fits in now with our market the way it is, our inventory is extremely low. And I would like to just get some general information about your home, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. Do you mind just sharing with me what you have to offer? And they'll tell you, and then I'll ask them, so because we have such low inventory, would you be willing to compensate an agent if they were to bring a buyer to the table? Well, yeah, we would do, and I'll start having that discussion with them. And I don't necessarily say, can I come preview the house? I want to get their information from them first, because I don't want them to feel like, I got to get in the door with you. And then they feel a little bit more trust and more worthiness, I guess you could say, in talking with me. And then if the conversation is going well, I'd say, well, if you would like, I can get your information out in front of our other realtors in our office. Is there a chance I might be able to swing by? And then sometimes I will say, I've got buyers that are looking in your area. Can you give me some details? I just have a conversation with them about their property, get them talking about the house. When they're talking about their home, they tend to relax a little bit more and forget that they're talking to a realtor. So that's my goal when I deal with for sale by owners.
And Lance's point is well taken, especially with this low market. Say the houses are moving so fast, we have nothing listed. If nothing else, I'll just remember your house. And if I have a buyer says they want one like it, can I bring one by? That works as well too. Just don't lie. I'm not going to do that. The MLS hot sheet. Okay. I'm going to say a word about expireds and why they tell you expireds and FISBOs are such a good source of housing. We know that those people want to sell their house. We know it. It's for sale by owner or it expired. They tried to sell it and it didn't sell. Either way, you've got someone who wants to sell their house. Now, their motivation may have been wrong. They may have wanted too much money. The other realtor may not have marketed it well. There could be a lot of reasons. But in this market today, yeah, I'll tell you about my son's house. My son Chris bought a $650,000 house. He's a doctor. He can afford that stuff, you know. They looked at the house one summer and waited a full another summer before they made an offer. Had to do with schools and all kinds of things. The house had been on the market for 3 years and expired with 4 different real estate agents. All of those real estates did fine marketing. The house was a good looking house. It was in a great location. It just was in a price range that was very slow and hard to find the exact seller for. So I tell that story because when you look at a house that has expired in this market, you may be wasting a lot of time on it trying to get it sold to somebody else. It's not like the houses in the 250, 225, 200 range that are selling in a single day if they're even reasonably priced. So if you see the house that's 250,000 that has expired with 2 different realtors, you have to ask yourself, are they really? And believe me, when I tell you, if I told you the names of people that had my son's house listed, they were fine, upstanding, top of the heap realtors. They all did great jobs. There's something else going on. Don't waste your time there. Spend more time with your sphere of influence.
What I will add to that is I've never really have pursued the expireds. Greg may kick me for saying that, but there is a reason why the house didn't sell. And it's either because it's in bad shape or condition, or the realtor had it priced too high, or the seller wants too much money for it. And or their situation has changed. Maybe they're not moving, or getting transferred, or whatever the case may be. I have found that, there's been a couple. I have picked up more not expireds. I've picked up more listings because I was in the game trying to earn their business up front and lost out to another realtor who bought the listing. Do you guys understand what buying a listing is? So let's say Greg's trying to sell his house and I do he's meeting with myself and Micah, and Micah goes in and she's done her CMA. Sorry, I'm gonna throw you under the bus a little bit. She's done her CMA and she knows the house's value is only about 200,000. That's probably what it'll sell for. She goes in and meets with Greg. Greg tells her, well, I appreciate you saying this, but I think my house is worth 225. I'll list with you if you will list it at 225. I come in and I say 200,000. And let me back up. Micah may say, yeah, your house is worth 225 just to get the listing. That's buying a listing. Where I'll come in and say, I'm sorry, Greg, I don't want to waste your time. I don't want to waste mine. I've actually picked up business that way because sellers go with the Micahs of the world. And in 30 to 60 days, I'm getting a phone call and said, we've just canceled our listing agreement. We want to list with you. We should have listened to you from the beginning. The reason they're making that change is because they realized that, they were oversold. So I'm sorry, I got off track there, but expireds, you just have to remember there's a reason why they didn't sell. What is that reason? And this book kind of gives you an idea of how to determine that when you're talking with the sellers.
And some of it's talking with the seller. Some of it, you can just look at the way it's written in the MLS, the way the pictures are and so on. But if you're not willing to solve that problem for that seller who wants to sell, they are motivated, then go on, keep working your sphere or something else.
Yep.
So that's my 2 bits on that. And you're right. There are some very nice FISBOs and expireds because they're very much the same. Now, I wanted to go over this sheet with you guys real quickly. I produce these for you every month. I want to explain what the numbers mean. And I've added some new numbers that aren't on this sheet, so I'm sorry, I need to update the slides. The number of listings that we have, let's see, I'm going to use a little pointer here. Listings, key metric. This is gross overall listings in the MLS last year compared to this year. Now, that is 2018, 2019, because in January of 2021, we only had 890 some odd listings versus last year, we already had double of that. Our average number of listings going back 15 years in our MLS is 3,000 active listings at the end of the month, and we're down to 900. It's pathetic. But then I put in pending sales. Now these are under contract. Closed sales. How many closed last month this year versus last month last year? Average days on the market. Median sales price across the entire market, average sales price. And then over here is a running total of year to date, just adding up the numbers and accumulating them for you. This looks very impressive to a client, and this is what the clients will understand a little bit more. Down here, I just pick what I think are the top 3 numbers and put them in there. They change every month. And in this bottom right-hand corner is a little place you can click on and put your picture in and put your name, phone number, and email address so that you can customize it to you. Now, that's the front page. That's really the page that the clients will understand a little easier. But on the back page is the really more important information. And it's more important because I break them down by price range. And I do them by $50,000 increments. So whenever a number is less than 5 months of inventory is a seller's market. Well, right now we're running in these numbers in the 1 month supply of inventory. And what that means is if you take all the houses that were sold and divide it into all the houses that are on the market today, how many months will it take to sell all the houses that are on the market today? And in some of these price ranges, whoops, I'm sorry, I pushed the wrong button. I got to figure out how to exit out of that. In some of these price ranges, we're actually below a month. We will sell everything we have on the market today in less than a month. So when your home seller is in this price range, or as my son was up in here, for every house we have in the market, it was taking 2 years to sell it. Now that's come down. In today's market, we're all balanced. So look at these every month. But when you've got a home buyer that says, I don't get it. Why can't I get out there and find a house fast enough? Show them the back of this. In your price range, we're selling everything we've got in less than a month. We can't help it. We put it on the market, it's gone. Down here, you will find the number of days on market. And more importantly, in my mind, is the percentage of list price that the house actually sold for. So if I've got a $100,000 house and I write a contract for $96,000, that would be 96%. That gives you a guide of what the seller should expect and so on. Now, your mentor will give you some other instruction about if I'm giving up money for the down payment or I'm giving up money for closing costs, the concessions.
Does those numbers include concession? Are you using net numbers?
Those are net according to the program I'm using.
Okay.
But I don't actually calculate them. There's a program that does it. So the point is, if you go in with a seller and you say your house should sell in less than a month, according to this chart in your price range, and you'll notice down here, you're probably going to get 100% of your asking price, even with concessions. You can use these figures to try to help people through what's going on. Okay? Good. If you have questions about that, ask your mentor. Very important, no matter what you're doing, whether it's FSBOs, expireds, or listing, find the motivation for selling a home. That's the number one question you can ask in listing. And we'll cover that next month or next week in the listing presentation. But you've got to know their motivation. If you don't know why they want to move, you've already missed the boat. Is it because the market's hot? Is it because grandma died? Is it because they're being transferred to a new city? Is it because they lost their job? You got to find out what their motivation is so you can figure out how quickly they need to move. Sample scripts, sample scripts. I know we've taken a lot of time, but words from their wise. There's no such thing as too long with an expired. My son bought a house that was on the market for 3 years. That just killed
So
me.
with that being said, real quick, I just want to add this. When it comes to for sale by owners and expireds, you guys can't expect to, let's take it for sale by owner. You cannot expect to just bam, call them once, meet them once, and then expect to get the listing. It takes development. It takes a little bit of time. You have to earn their trust. Does that make sense? Now, are they quick? Yes, they can be. But I don't want, when you're working with for sale by owners, if you even give them the sense that you're just after the listing, sayonara, they're moving on. They're not even going to give you a chance. So if you're going to call on for sale by owners, don't expect to be, unless you are
It's not one
Zig
and done.
Ziglar and can really sell them.
No, it's not one and done, even
Nope.
for Zig. Okay, and Lance's point is well taken based on this slide. They get called all the time. I'm going to lowball your house because I buy old houses and sell them. I'm going to bring a buyer to your house, and then I'm going to sell the contract that I write with you to somebody else. I'm a realtor and I want to list your house. Will you let me list it? They get a lot of phone calls, which is part of what we get paid for, to take away those phone calls for them. Offer better. I'm not pushing this because of time, but I do want you to remember, I want you to really work on your contact list. Prospect driven open houses. For time, I'm going to skip through some of this because your mentors all know very well how to do an open house. I will say this about this slide. I never once met somebody walking in the door at the door. It feels somewhat intrusive to me to be right there standing in their face. I would rather be in the middle of the living room, back a ways. They could see me from the front door. I might want to say something very generic like, welcome, glad you're here. Take a look around, got a sign-in sheet we need you to sign. I'll let your mentor work through that. But don't bang them right at the front door. Say, hey, how are you? You know, no, that's not going to work.
Open houses have been gold for me. The summer before this past, I figured it up. It was like on one open house that I did in Derby, I ended up doing $1.3 million in sales from one open house. It was 3 or 4 different customers that I picked up that day.
Even better, you pick up names for your contact list for future. I used to say I was king of the open house. That's the only way I ever got business, because I didn't do a sphere of influence list. I wasn't smart enough back then. But boy, I could do a lot from an open house. So please get with your mentors and do open houses as well. Pick them accordingly. There's a whole lot in here. And this script I didn't never use, but I just instinctively do it exactly the way it said. I would know every house in the neighborhood. I would, if somebody was in at 2 o'clock at an open house and they said, nope, this doesn't fit me. And I said, and they told me what they wanted. If there was a house around the corner or a half mile away, I said, I know of another house that would fit you perfectly. If you will allow me, I'll make an appointment and I'll meet you over, 4:30, or you could drive by it first and call me back. And they appreciated the extra step. And I would go over and I would open the house at 4:30 after my open house was over. Picked up a lot of buyers that way. Okay. More sample scripts. Farming. I'm going to skip farming for now. I'm going to ask you to talk to your
Real quick, just a couple things on open houses, Greg, because I know we're pressed for time.
Oh, we are.
First and foremost, get with your mentor and pick the right home that will work for an open house. One of the things that we struggle with right now with our open houses is that our market is moving so fast that by the time you get an open house scheduled, it's probably under contract by the time you get to that Sunday. So find some homes that are going to be desirable, that's probably still going to be on the market, and work with your mentor to reach out to other realtors within our company to do those other open houses. Does that make sense? So if Micah wanted to do an open house, I'm going to say, okay, let's put together an email to send out to all the agents within our company and just introduce yourself. I'm looking to do an open house this Sunday. And then you will get some responses back, and then pick one that suits you best, that will work, for the situation, that will generate butts through the home. That's all open houses is generated to do. Yes, I've maybe over the years, over the 20 years I've been in the business, maybe I've sold 3 through an open house.
The national average.
The actual listing.
Yeah. The
But
national average is 3% of the open houses actually sell
Yes.
to whoever comes in the house.
So the
that
goal
day.
is to get as many butts through the home as possible so that you can potentially pick them up as buyers.
Or pick up other listings, people in the neighborhood that think you did a good job. I know Mike has got to go real quick.
Yep, sorry.
Farming, I'm going to skip over. Social media, I want you to read this section. And we are going to get on to, hey, mark your accomplishments. Every week I want you to put down what I did last week so that when you come to homework next week, you don't say, no, I didn't do mine.
And when you're tracking your numbers, it's even if you just reach out to a past client or reach out to a spear or whatever, even if it's just a simple text or an email, that counts.
Yep.
Every contact, every touch that you make counts.
So next week, I was going to do it this week. Next week, we will set you up in to keep track of what you're doing. And I want all of you to talk to your mentors about doing an open house. You may not get it done by the time our next class is, but at least be able to tell us at your class what you and your mentor discussed and what you're doing to get into an open house. Even if it's not the best open house in the world to have, because it's too high prices, too low prices, too far out. I want you to try one. I want you to see what it's like. Okay? Any questions?
Yeah, have any questions for us? So for those of you that don't have to go, real quick, that open house that I did, one client, one prospect came through there. I just started up a general conversation with her and showing her the house, and then she kind of let me know that they're looking to buy and sell, and so she was willing to allow me to come out and look at their home, and it ended up being a $400,000+ house. They were downsizing. They ended up buying a $300,000+ home, downsizing 400 to 300. Built a great relationship with them. And then 2 other clients that came through, I helped one of them sell a $220,000 home in Derby. They bought a $300,000 house over in Southeast Wichita. And then there was one other client that came through that I helped them buy and sell.
And so the important statement here is you all are building a business. It takes a while to build a business. It doesn't just happen overnight.
Yeah, those open houses, the only one of them happened right away. The other 2, I just closed one of them about 3 months ago.
But even so, as Lance said, one happened right away, one didn't. I've had them go both ways. You're also building a business in that those people that you work with today, remember the stat, they either know you, they know somebody who knows you, they've recommended you. You're going to get more business from people that are going to recommend you over the next year or the next 2 years than you are from any sort of campaign, dollar, anything else you buy. So God love you. If you want to deal with Zillow and pay them for, and I'm picking on Zillow, but any of them that you pay for leads, if you sell them a house and then you forget about them, you've missed the boat. You have to keep them in your sphere of influence and keep building business around them. Okay, so what's your assignment? What's your assignment?
You want your mentor to schedule an open house?
Very good. And keep putting names in your sphere of influence. Okay. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, guys.
I'm going to stop recording, maybe.
Lance, what do you have going on next week?